if something like she had just mentioned really had happened, it was an abominable past that she wouldn't want to remember. After taking several deep breaths with her hand over her chest, it seemed that she had more or less gathered the resolve to talk.
あれはいくつの時だったのかしら。多分中学生か。よく覚えてない。
Was it 19 years ago?
とにかくそのくらいの頃だったと思うわ。
ってことは、だいたい20年くらい前ってとこか。
Around 20 years, 19 years.
あの頃の私はあまり成績が良くなくて、いつもお母様に怒られてばかりだった。私なりに努力していたつもりだったんだけど、お母様の期待には全然応えられなくて。
母上はローザにも随分厳しかったな。当時は同情していたよ。
陰口ばっかだったくせによく言うわね。
予算かエヴァ。それでローザさんはどこでベアトリーチェに会ったんや。
I mean, we do have to keep in mind that memory we had with Kraus, Eva, and Kinzo like a while ago.
秀吉さん、今はせかしてはダメよ。いいのよ、ローザさん。楽に話して。
ありがとう。あれはお母様に特にひどく叱られた日よ。
Even though my tutor had promised to keep it a secret, apparently they told Mother all about how I had complained. Mother scolded me horribly, saying that I was a disgrace to the Ushirimiya family. Of course, I was doing the best I could, but I had none of Krause Nisan's dignity. I couldn't get excellent grades like Eva Nessa, and I had no leadership like Rudolf Nisan. I never stood out, didn't particularly excel at anything, and I almost wanted to ask myself why I had been born to the Ushirimiya family. I didn't know why I had been born. On that day, I had the experience of my mind going blank for the first time. For the first time since I was born, I realized that in addition to facing or surrendering to my problems, I had the third choice of running away. Even though I say run away, there was no way I could have left Rokenjima and gone somewhere else. But anyway, I wanted to run away from the mansion, and the way I was at the time. In a way, it was like running away from home, or maybe a half-hearted suicide.
いなくなりたかったの。あるいはいなくなることによって親を心配させたいという子供なりの反抗だったのかも。私は森の遥か奥に行けば後ろ宮の家から逃れられる。あるいは迷子になって心配させることで仕返しができると子供ながらに思ったの。
それで行ってはいけないと言われていた森に。
ええ。
And let me guess, you found the mansion, the hidden mansion.
浜辺へ出てから海に沿うように。特に理由があったわけじゃないけれど、島をぐるりと回ればその反対側には誰も知らない場所があって。
You went to the beach, followed alongside the ocean, and went around to the opposite side of the island. Huh.
私だけの隠れ家になるような気がしたの。
浜辺からぐるっとってのは無理だな。途中で崖になっちまうだろう。
I guess so.
あんなとこ通れるわけがねえぜ。
もちろんよ。だから通れる方へ通れる方へ、とにかく奥へ奥へ進んだわ。道なんかないひどい森だったけど、あの時の私にはそれが心地よかったの。 それほどの険しい森を抜けたなら、その分後宮家から逃れられるって、そんな気持ちだったの。
情けないわね。成績で叱られたならその分努力すればいいのに。
それを言ってはいかんね。その代わりローザにはデザイナーとしての才能があったじゃないか。
Literally, this could be taken as him covering for Rosa. But everyone knew that Rosa's company was not making any profits.
よせよ。今は嫌味を言ってる場合じゃねえぜ。そして偶然たどり着いちまったんだな。ベアトリーチェの隠し屋敷に。
Rosa nodded weakly.
どのくらい歩いたんや。地図で場所が示せるんか。夏さん、この島の地図はあるかいな。
いえ、今ここにはありませんが。
What? Are you kidding me?
無理よ。適当に歩いただけだもの。地図を見せられたってわからないわ。それにあれから20年も経ってる。多分森へ行っても二度とたどり着けないわ。
Several people let out dejected sighs. It was vividly clear that in their haste, they had thought that some hint related to the witch's epitaph, or maybe even the gold itself, might be resting there in that hidden mansion.
六軒島はこの屋敷の周りが整地されているだけに過ぎねえ。他は完全に未開で、前頭測量は相当の手間がかかるだろうな。
でも確かに存在すると分かっただけでも収穫よ。お金はかかるだろうけど、例えば航空写真の会社に調査を頼むとか、このお屋敷を建設した業者に当時のことを聞くとか、調べる方法はあるかもしれないわね。
Yeah, that is true. If we are even able to contact the, like, you know, the contractors who constructed the mansion and all that, and those who constructed the mansion in the first place, because, you know, there's no way that Kinzo actually built the mansion himself. Of course, there are going to be some people that helped him, so yeah, that would totally be something, but it has been 30 years since then. Probably some people have died of old age and all that by now, so I don't think that we can use that to help us.
そうね。あるかないかもわからないものを探すよりはまだ方法があるはずよ。
Well, yeah. There is no room for doubt at this point. I mean, it has been confirmed in red that the mansion exists.
早速調べる価値があるだろう。
その調査は兄弟合同でやるわよ。
Jesus, I mean, look at me, like, say that there is no room for doubt that the mansion exists because it was confirmed in red. Now I am working more and more with red, that I'm ending up believing in it more and more. In comparison to the first times when the red was introduced, and I was like, okay, I'll humor you. I'm gonna trust this red for now. But I am still waiting for that day when somebody's gonna say in red something that is totally not true and all that. Like, I am prepared mentally. And, well, until then, I'm gonna believe the red truths and all that. I ain't keeping my guard up, but for right now, let's just say that the red truths are confirming without a shadow of doubt that the mansion exists, because it helps me, nonetheless.
兄さん一人ではさせないわ。
He wasn't certain that the gold was hidden in that secret mansion, but it seemed that the fireworks between Kraus and Eva had already begun.
兄貴たち、今はよせよ。ローザ、続きを話してくれ。
Blindly, Randomly, I kept running, on and on. Suddenly, it felt like I had come across something like an animal trail. I had no idea how far I'd walked, and I was very tired, so by then, I was just naturally taking the easiest path to walk on. As I did, suddenly, right before my eyes, a very tall fence appeared. It was a fence wonderfully adorned in a Gothic style. For an instant, I spun around, thinking that I might have returned to the original mansion. Of course, there were fences around the mansion to stop us from entering the forest, but this fence was decorated differently. And most of all, it was very tall. It probably reached a full 2 stories up. It was covered with ivy and created a mysterious, solemn atmosphere. At the time, I believed the legend of the witch of the forest, Beatrice. I had been told that she was frightening, but some of the servants told me that she would sometimes help you if you respected her. Since I started to lose confidence in how my life was going, I believed that the only way I could be saved was by receiving her help. It is interesting to hear that even 20 years ago, servants were believing in Beatrice and all that, and were telling stories of the witch and stuff like that. Like how Kumasawa and Genji and Shannon and Kanon are talking about the existence of Beatrice, that they believe in the existence of Beatrice in like the first games and such. It is interesting. Like, it makes me wonder, where are the servants from 20 years ago, like right now? Like, where are they? If they were here, what could they tell us? So that's what made me think it. I believe that this was the fence of the mansion of Beatrice, the witch of the forest. I thought that if I could meet with Beatrice, she would definitely save me. So I thought I would try to go in. But that fence was very tall, and it didn't look like I could go over it. So I decided to walk around it. I thought that if I did, I would eventually reach a gate. But it wasn't that easy. The fence had a length to match its height, and no matter how far I went, I didn't reach a corner. It might have been enclosing a very massive area. Or maybe it just felt that way because my child's legs made it difficult to walk in the forest. I mean, it makes sense. If Beatrice couldn't escape the hidden mansion because of the fence over here, then of course it would be difficult for Rosa to find even an entrance to this. Anyway, because I couldn't find the gate for a while, I started to feel sad, as though the witch had just rejected me. As I did, I eventually came upon a large tree, whose twisted root had bent the fence. Oh! I might get my clothes dirty, but if I crawled, it looked like I would be able to sneak in.
そこが隠し屋敷だったの？
あれが私たちの言う隠し屋敷なのかはわからない。でも少なくとも私たちの知る場所ではなかったわ。
It wasn't as though I came out into a garden as soon as I passed the fence. Whoa. I had to continue through a lot more uncultivated forest after that. Wow. This place is beautiful. Holy Mother of God. And then, the forest suddenly opened. And there's the mansion. And what appeared there was an unbelievably fantastical scene. To think that Okenjima, where I had believed no one other than us lived, had been hiding such a wonderful mansion. A beautiful flower garden spanned the front of the mansion. It was a flower garden of a completely different design from the rose garden we had known so well. It was very lovely. Of course, the mansion was also wonderful. It was one or two sizes smaller than ours, but it was very elegant and yet a lovely mansion. Then, I saw her. I saw her sitting in a garden chair, positioned to give a view of the flower garden, wearing an elegant dress. It was that black dress embroidered in gold that we would later know from that portrait. I hadn't seen an elegant dress like that except in fairy tales, and on the stage of musicals. That a person would be wearing it as their normal clothes. That in itself seemed quite fantastical. That magical scene was enough to make me lose my sense of reality. If someone had told me then that it was a dream, I might have nodded obediently and waited to wake up in my bed. Since, in my shock, I had forgotten to hide myself, she eventually noticed me. At first, her expression was quite listless, but when she noticed me, her eyes opened very wide. I mean, it was only natural, a guess that she didn't know had suddenly appeared. I automatically bowed my head, feeling that I should greet her and apologize for entering without permission.
そなたは誰か新しい庭師なのか
Those were the first words she said to me. That calmed me down a little bit, because I realized that she could be talked with. Because I hadn't been turned into a frog just by meeting her eyes, like the terrifying witch in that fairy tale.
ごめんなさい。勝手にお庭に立ち入ってすみません。そなたは誰か名乗るがよい。後宮ローザと言います。後宮。ほう、金蔵の一族の人間なのか。はい、金蔵の娘です。こんにちは。
And I was just a little surprised. After all, father was a great man feared by everyone, and she referred to him without using honorifics. So she quickly became frightening. After all, if she could refer to my fearsome father that way, she must be a witch with incredible power. After staring at me curiously, she beckoned me to come over to her. And I obeyed, although filled with belated trepidation. After all, I thought I really might be turned into a frog. And the closer and closer I got, the stronger that fear became. After all, I said it several times already, but that woman and her dress in the flower garden in the mansion, that entire harmony was so fantastical and beautiful that it seemed separate from reality. It surely wouldn't have surprised me even if she was actually a witch. And I was truly lucky. She didn't turn me into a frog. As I awkwardly stood there stuck still, she motioned to an open chair and led me to sit down.
座るがよい。初めて訪れた者を庭へ招き、語らうのがわらわの唯一の楽しみよ。他に何の楽しみもないがな。
As she said that, she showed an unhappy smile for just an instant. Because I was full of a strange mix of tension and excitement, I really asked her a question suddenly.
森の魔女ベアトリーチェですか？いかにも。わらわがベアトリーチェである。
やはりな。ベアトリーチェは実在したんだ。
その姿はまさに肖像画の。
ええ、まさにあの肖像画の通りよ。
お父さんの想像の中の魔女じゃなかったんやな。
それであなたは彼女と何を話したの？
彼女は お茶を入れながら私のことをいろいろと聞いたわ。まず森を抜けてやってきたことを驚かれた。彼女は柵の外には危険な狼がたくさんいると信じていたみたいだった。だから私が森を抜けてたどり着いたと言ったらとても驚いていたわ。どうやって狼から逃れたのか、ビスケットを渡して許してもらったのか、それとも魔法の街灯をかぶってなんて感じのことを言ってたっけ。
そりゃ確かに魔女っぽいわな。面白いお人や。
あなた黙って。ずいぶん昔だけど、お父様は森には狼が住んでいるから近寄ってはならないって私たちを脅さなかった？
ああ、そんなこともあったな。バカらしいね。日本の狼はとっくの昔に絶滅しているというのに。
Well, it could be that there are no wolves on this island. Maybe not only did Kinzo fabricate this story about wolves for his daughters and sons, but also for Beatrice to not escape the mansion and all that.
まさに子供騙しだな。
記憶にねえな。そんな話親父に聞かされたっけ？森には魔女だろ。狼なんて話聞いたことないぜ。
あんたがまだ小学校だった頃よ。覚えてない？そしたらあんたむしろ狼を撫でてみたいなんて言い出すもんだから、お父様はすぐに狼の話を引っ込めて魔女の話に切り替えたのよ。もうその嘘っぽいことと言ったら
当時のルドルフには狼よりも魔女の話の方がてきめんだったね。よく覚えているよ。私の背中にしがみついた夜があったことを覚えているかね。
ルドルフさんにもそんな可愛らしい時代があったのね。
うるせえな。子供の頃の話だぜ。
You know, we look at the adults and see them so competitive against each other. It is nice to hear such wholesome stories like once in a while about them when they were children and all that stuff like that.
まあとにかくベアトリーチェを閉じ込めていたのがお父さんなら、同じ狼の話をするのは道理ね。
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. That if there were wolves over there, or even if there were not wolves over there, he will create the story not only for the adults but also for Beatrice.
彼にとって六軒島の広大な森は後ろ宮家と愛人の屋敷という相入れない二つの異世界を分断する越えてはならない壁だったのだから。
柵の高さを考えると、どうやら親父殿は庭ごと丸々を座敷牢にしたようだな。さながら二つの世界を分ける国境も同然だったのだろ
う。狼はともかく野犬の類でもいたのではありませんか。そのための柵だったかもしれません。
六軒島に狼も野犬もいないわ。その柵は兄さんやキリエさんの言うようにベアトリーチェと私たちの間の国境だったんでしょうね。
しかし狼の話を素直に信じるなんて、なんちゅうか純朴やな。わしの想像していた魔女とは随分違う感じやで。
そうね、それは私も感じたわ。とても尊大で、確かに魔女のイメージ通りの人だったんだけど、どこかとても子供っぽくて、なんていうのか素直すぎるというか、世間知らずな印象を受けたわ。例えるなら 本当におとぎの国の人みたいというか、本当に不思議な人だったわ。
それからどうしたんだ？親父の話とかは出たのかい？
ええ、何日かに一度。約束されている日もあれば突然の日もあったそうだけど、ふらりとお父様が訪れては一緒にお茶を飲んだり散歩したりしたんですって。私が訪れたその日はたまたま彼女一人だったと言っていたわ。
なるほどな。まさに愛人といったところだ。
Did you see anybody else there? Like any servants? Or maybe you've seen like a woman in another beautiful dress but with gray hair? Did you see someone like that?
やれやれ。いくつ年下か知らんが、親父殿もやるね。
いかがわしい意味での交流はなかったと確信しています。
バカね。男と女の多さに色気がないはずないじゃない。それでどうしたの？それから何の話を？
私の自己紹介をしたので、逆に彼女のことを質問したわ。そうしたら急に雰囲気が落ち込んでしまったの。なんていうのか、とても気だるそうな、寂しそうな。私が初めて彼女の顔を見た時に浮かべていたのと。
まあ秘密の愛人だからな。
You know, the way Rosa describes this event with Beatrice, it does fit with what we've been told by Beatrice and Ronoe, so it can very well be true that what happened with Rosa actually happened. Because, of course, this Beatrice would act completely different, like, more honest and more, like, childish and all that, because, well, she lost her memories and all that. She isn't the same rude, disgusting, evil Beatrice that we know, so it fits. Like, before I was questioning if what Rosa is telling us is, like, a fake story of sorts, but it fits more and more.
好き勝手に歩かれてお袋に見つかっちまったらことだ。きっと軟禁に近い状態だったろう。
Also, I have been told by people before. I commented about how in the second game I didn't see like any hint whatsoever of Rosa meeting Beatrice before, but apparently there were some hints that they were telling of Rosa thinking that she didn't meet Beatrice before, but she wasn't very sure. Like maybe we are talking about repressed memories over here. There is that possibility as well, so my bad.
綺麗なドレスに綺麗な屋敷や庭があってもさぞや窮屈な思いをしてたんだろうぜ。
Because if we are talking about Rosa killing someone in the past, that would be a memory that you would repress. So of course, by the time we were in the second game, she wouldn't know jack shit about it. It's just that recently, apparently, she finally remembered that. Huh. I wonder if it's because of the events of the second game, though. Does that mean that Rosa right now has memories of the past game? Or did something happen here in the second game that made her finally remember the events, even if in the second game she didn't know jack shit about Beatrice in the past? Like, I wonder what triggered her memory to, like, I wonder what triggered her memories like that. Is it the events of the second game or something else?
そりゃ苦労もあったろうさ。それで
彼女はきっと何か悩みがあった。それを私に話したところで何の解決にもならない。私もとても悲しかったのを覚えてる。私と一緒にいることさえ忘れてしまったかのようで、遠くをぼんやり見ながらずっと 無言でいたわ。私はきっと失言してしまったに違いないと思ったんだけど、謝罪の言葉すらも口にしていいような雰囲気じゃなくて。だから私も彼女が私と一緒にいることを思い出してくれるまでずっと。
When she did, she muttered unexpectedly.
柵の向こうには本当に狼などおらぬのか。
え？はい。狼なんて動物園でも見たことないです。
動物園とは何か。
ああ、いろんな動物が飼われているところです。象とかキリンとかパンダとか珍しい動物がいっぱいいますよ。
動物園に狼はいないのか。なら怖くないかもしれんな。
狼がいたとしても動物はみんな檻に入ってますから安全です。
I feel like that might trigger some sadness inside Beatrice since she mentioned cages.
だから安心して見学できるんですよ。
The Witch of the Forest, of all people, was for some reason scared of and didn't like wolves. I remember he looked pretty comical.
それはわらわとどう違うのか。
Yeah, I figured. I was thinking she was gonna go that path. Since wolves are in cages inside the zoo, it is no different than Beatrice being locked up in here, like inside a cage, herself. She didn't even know about zoos. I explained how fun zoos could be, but it was very difficult to get a person like her, who had never been to one, to understand. Quite the opposite. As I explained it to her, her expression grew increasingly dismal. Well, I guess so. It's not like Rosa had the intention of hurting Beatrice over here, because it's not like Rosa knew that Beatrice was actually trapped in here. She didn't think that at the time, I'm sure. She couldn't see the difference. It seemed that although this mansion surrounded by a high fence appeared at a glance to afford her completely provided for a life of comfort, she couldn't see how she was different from the animals shut up in cages.
わらわは何者なのか。皆はわらわのことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。それは確かにそなたの言うように偉大な魔女の名前らしい。しかしそれはわらわではないのだ。わらわには魔法など何も使えぬ。わらわはその魔女の魂を好みに封じられているだけなのだ。
You cannot use any magic, you say? Huh. There was definitely something mysterious about her. It wasn't just that she was somehow at odds with the world. If she cannot use any magic, then this definitely feels conflicting with that first dream that we've seen, with presumably young child Beatrice and the good witch Beatrice. I mean, I assume that is the dream of a very young Beatrice and all that, being trained by the good witch Beatrice with a gray hair and all. In which case, if that happened, then I would assume that Beatrice would know magic by now, but no. Here we have human Beatrice, trapped inside this mansion with no magic whatsoever, if what she's saying is the truth. Unless the events of that dream with Good Witch Beatrice happened before the whole human Beatrice being trapped in this mansion, ever since 1952. But it seemed that she truly believed that a thing called magic actually exists. I think she talked about various weird things, but I don't remember the details. I mean, unless this human Beatrice tried to learn magic from good witch Beatrice, but wasn't able to in this state. That could also be a possibility. All I thought was, this might be a pitiful person. She wasn't able to leave this mansion of her own will, a prisoner without even realizing it. And she didn't know anything about the outside world, didn't even understand who she was. She probably vaguely understood herself that she was pitiful. But since she didn't know anything, it seemed that she couldn't realize that this was unhappiness. Nessan, long ago, when I told you that I felt sorry for a bird in a cage, I remember you said this to me. A bird that only knows the inside of a cage doesn't long for the outside. But she wasn't a bird. She was ultimately a human. Even if she had never been outside a cage, she understood that it wasn't the whole world. So, I invited her.
柵の外へ出てみますか？
本当に狼はいないのか？
いないですよ。絶対平気ですから。
出たいぞ。だが、いつも門は閉まっている。
私が入ってきたところがあります。くぐり抜けられる隙間があるんです。
そこを抜ければ外の世界があるのか？
はい。
狼は本当にいない？
はい、いませんよ。
I had only planned to invite her for a short walk, but she kept looking over her shoulder at the mansion, as though she were seriously deliberating over something. Then I learned what she was preparing herself for.
わらわはもうここは嫌だ。外へ出たい。そしてわらわが何者で、この世界はどうなっていて、わらわは何のために生まれてきたのかを知り。
I didn't know what her life had been like until then. It was probably something that she couldn't express easily. If it was harsh, she just had to say that she wanted to escape. If it was sweet, she just had to say that she would stay. To liken it to something, perhaps it was similar to how a hot fireplace on a winter day makes the air get thicker and thicker, giving you a headache. Even though you know that you shouldn't keep things the way they are, you still need the courage to open the window and be tormented by the cold wind. She was starting to realize that she couldn't stay there forever. She was starting to realize that she had to go outside sometime. But since she didn't know about the outside world, to take that first step outside must have required an unimaginable amount of courage. Yeah, she had taken that into consideration and resolved herself. She had put that resolution to go outside into words for what was surely the first time in her entire life. I hesitated slightly. It had been decided that she would live here by father. It was as if she were father's beloved bird in a cage. If I just let her escape, would I be harshly scolded by father?
見たい。何を？
動物園が見たいのだ。
I was just a little surprised when she finally showed me a very soft smile. That might have been an inner peace, coming from her newfound readiness to venture out from her cage. Huh. Quite interesting. So a smile which I wouldn't have imagined could have come out of that dark face. You can say that 30 times.
そなたと話すと知らないことばかり出てくる。わらわは学校なるものもわからぬし、動物園も知らぬ、映画館も知らぬ、遊園地も知らぬ。そしてそれを知りたいと心の底から思う。 そなたはわらわをそこへ連れて行ってくれるのか？
I was nervous about how I would do it and keep it a secret from father. But her face looked so happy. Well, I went along with her and nodded. But it seemed that the meaning behind my vague expression was not communicated to her. It seemed that she believed that I would really take her to all those places if we left. And she was pure and genuine. She had probably never been tricked by anyone. No. Maybe it should be said that she hadn't been taught how to doubt. Because I'm sure that she had been tricked by everyone. Her face was somewhat radiant, and yet pathetic. I wanted to somehow grant her a modest wish.
わらわはもうベアトリーチェは嫌だ。わらわが何者なのか、ベアトリーチェではない新しい人間を始めたい。だからここから連れ出してほしい。もう紅茶もいらぬ、ドレスもいらぬ、金蔵とも二度と会わぬ。ここよりわらわを連れ出してくれ、ローザ。
However, their responsibility was one that a child such as me couldn't possibly bear fully. But her serious gaze and her brilliant smile, almost as though an evil spirit had lifted from her, made me feel a little courage to start to rise up inside myself. This was definitely something that would get me in a lot of trouble, but it was definitely the right thing to do. I don't know how it will turn out, but I'll take her out. Of course, I won't be able to ask help from father, and not mother either. Should I talk to you? Should I talk to Oni-sama or One-sama? No, what about a reliable Genji-san? Or... That's right, what about Kumasawa-san, to whom I can always talk when I'm in trouble? Oh! Okay, so apparently Kumasawa was a servant in the mansion even like 19 years ago. Okay, that's good information. Surely be able to do something. Anyway, for now, I'll take her out of here, because this is no longer a place where she wishes to be. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Kumasawa does know quite a few things about the mansion, so it makes sense that she was a servant on this island for quite some time, but I wasn't really sure for how long though. The mystery behind Kumasawa is getting even more and more interesting as time passes. I wonder. She was all nervous, checking to make sure there were no wolves around. But after that fear disappeared, she seemed somehow to be having fun even just walking around this dense forest. Every time she found something, she would ask me about it. And they were all really minor things. What's that flower? What's that leaf? And that sound. And that smell. It was really like the inside of that fence had been her entire world. So to her, who had stepped out of the world, this was... it's strange. In the beginning, when I first saw her, I thought that she was the absolute incarnation of a witch relaxing by a witch's mansion. But now it was different. Actually, the complete opposite. Hey, Jesus Christ. After like 2 games and right now of Beatrice tormenting us and, being evil and all that. It just feels so surreal to see Beatrice like this. Like, it's just... This is definitely going to be interesting, how things are going to progress from here. She had gone out of a world she had believed to be infinite, and was full of joy at realizing for the first time that the world was endless. So everything she saw was new, It was almost as though she was the one who had been thrown into a fairy tale. She was Alice. Then I felt almost like a rabbit holding a watch. To her, it was probably a really fun walk, filled to the brim with excitement. But as for me, the truth was, I was completely bewildered. After all, I had walked randomly to get here, so there was no way I could have known the way back to the mansion. Uh-oh. There were no lights in the forest, and I hadn't brought a flashlight. I realized that it would be terrible if it got dark while we were still like this, and grew impatient. She was too innocent, and apparently she couldn't understand at all how frightening it would be to face the night inside the forest. But I was the one who had brought her outside. Somehow, I had to take responsibility and resolve the situation. So I thought that for now we should just go out to the sea. If we then follow the coast around, eventually we should definitely be able to make it back to the mansion. Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. However, that was much more of a problem than I imagined. After all, I didn't have a map or a compass. There was no way I could walk in a straight line through an uncultivated forest, and I admittedly lost my sense of direction. I already had no clue which trail I had come by. I was completely lost. At this rate, night would definitely fall before I even knew where I was walking. But I didn't have the luxury to complain, because that woman following behind me was so innocent and having so much fun. Therefore, for the sake of her smile if nothing else, I absolutely had to guide her out of this forest. Gritting my teeth so that I didn't show her a troubled face, I pushed my way onward through the pathless world. I pushed my way onward through the pathless woods. And although we had various troubles, we were lucky enough to make it to the sea. Wow! Wow. At that time, I still didn't even have a clue where I was on this island. But for the time being, I was just a little reassured. Realizing that if I just went around this way, I would surely be able to return to the mansion. Of course, although I said that we reached the sea, we were on the top of a rocky cliff. The beach was far below us. I was tired from walking around the forest for so long, so I thought that even though it was a rocky beach, an open area would probably be much easier to walk in. So I planned to somehow go down the rocky cliff. It did look pretty dangerous, and I wondered if there was some other way. However, Beatrice agreed with my plan without any doubts. Even though she was probably older than me, she obeyed me truly obediently. It was as though she were some kind of chick who believed I was a mother bird. I searched to see if there wasn't some place where I could go down the cliff. Then I found a place where the cliff had crumbled into a slope. It looked a little dangerous, but if I went down on both hands and both legs, like I was crawling, I thought it would probably be okay. Oh, well. It reminds me of, like, a while ago while I was, like, traveling in the mountains and such. Like, of course, at first I wasn't, yeah, I can definitely say that I wasn't confident in, like, you know, walking down some rocky area. So what I did was use both hands, like, and legs. As if I was a spider and all that.
ここを降りましょう。気をつけないと危ないけど、とにかく海岸に降りて、あとは沿って歩けば、もう迷わずに済むと思うの。
ローザがそうするのならそうしようぞ。わらわは迷うとやらも楽しいぞ。とても愉快だ。
She really had no sense of danger. It was probably no mistake that she had lived a life without discomfort. Even though she knew it would get dark when night fell, she couldn't imagine how dangerous the inside of a forest could be without a light. Furthermore, it seemed that she couldn't grasp at all how dangerous it might be if she fell from the cliff. I warned her once more to be careful. I cautiously examined the place where we could go down. It looked pretty high up. I think it might have been about 10 meters down. If you looked at it from the bottom up, it would probably have looked shorter than the roof of the mansion. But looking from the top, it felt almost like staring down from the Tokyo Tower's observation room. But Beatrice still appeared to be completely without fear. It felt as though she had never been taught that high places were dangerous. No. Maybe she truly believed that she was a witch, and that she could fly, so there wasn't anything dangerous.
気をつけてくださいね。結構高いから。
It is also pretty damn interesting that with all the events of the second game and what happened between Beatrice and Rosa, especially with what we've seen at the tea party, now we have a moment like this between the two of them. Holy mother of God.
気をつけるぞ。下へ降りたら海があるな。そこに水族館があるのか。
いえ、この島には水族館はないですよ。でも海にはたくさんの魚がいると思います。
そうか。魚はいるのか。そなたが話してくれたクジラとかイルカとかペンギンとかはいるのか。
いえ、そういうのは水族館に行かないといないです。水族館は島を出ないとないですよ。
そうなのか。だが楽しみだ。クジラとはどんな魚なのか。
すっごく大きな魚で、あれ、哺乳類かな。それで潮を吹いたりします。
ほう。ならばイルカは？
頭のいい魚で、あれ、これも哺乳類だっけ？とても頭が良くて芸とかを覚えられるんですよ。
ほう。ならばペンギンはどうなのか。
あれ、これは鳥類だっけ？
なんだ、水族館なのにさっきから魚が出てこんぞ。
Yeah.
まあその魚だけでなくいろいろな海の生き物がいっぱいいるんですよ。
ほほう。それはとても楽しみだ。
Some might have described it as a funny, rushed and short voice. No, probably it was a scream, I think. She suddenly made a sound like that. Her body separated from the cliff and gently fell down. I immediately thought to say to her, "How many times did I warn you to be careful?"